Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is episode 7 of the Fit Foodie Roadshow, where I am interviewing industry professionals and giving y'all some good tips and tricks and wisdom for these quarantine times that we're in, and hopefully help y'all be a little bit healthier. So today, I am so over the moon excited to introduce you to one of the people that made a huge, I'm gonna try not to cry. Oh, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Okay, one of the people that made a huge influence on me in my fitness journey and my career, Mr. Kevin Myles. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great relationship. Knowing you and working with you, and you are the real deal, and I'm fortunate to be here, so thank you very much.
You are the real deal. Let me talk about you for just a second before I have you introduce yourself. So Kevin is the owner and operator of bodysport.com and the author of The Diet That Works, which we're going to talk about that whole thing today, because it is a really important conversation, and also just like your whole brand, like your whole deal is about doing what works. He's also a former associate publisher of Bellafit magazine, multi-certified training and nutrition specialist. He currently creates and publishes fitness courses through Body Sport University, including the contest prep coaches course, which I think I was one of the first people to go.
You took it live. Yeah, you took that live before it was an online course.
Yeah. And he's also a supplemental nutrition specialist and marketer for Life Plus, a former Gold's Gym club manager, and co-owner of the soon-to-launch 50 Plus Fit Club, which is super exciting. I'm like right on your heels, 42 this year, so awesome. Super excited about that. And so many more things. We could talk about your career and just all of your accomplishments probably for over an hour. But you have been in the fitness industry for several decades now, like
a while, like 40 plus years. And it's
yeah,
it doesn't seem that long. It wasn't necessarily a planned thing. Oh, I'm going to do this. I was directed down that path, and one thing led to another, and just my interest in sports and training led into an interest of fitness and nutrition and jobs related in that field, whether it was working at a health food store or managing a gym or managing an exercise equipment store, and personal training all throughout that time. So it was a directed path in a lot of ways, and I'm really fortunate that I wound up being in that direction, because it's been a blessing in a lot of ways also.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about the beginning. Tell me about how you got into fitness, because you were an athlete.
Sure.
Right? That was kind of the beginning of it.
I always had an interest in it. Even when I was like 5, 6 years old, I used to work out with the old Jack LaLanne show, when Jack used to be on television every day, and him and his wife and their dog, and they'd do these exercises, and I'd follow along with that, and my sister would. So I had that interest in that, and I had that interest in wanting more muscles and wanting to be bigger and stronger from the comic books or the ads I saw in there. And even though I loved all these other sports, I was like, well, gee, how far could I hit a baseball if, my arms would look like Dave Draper or whatever? So I had that interest. And like most people, fitness starts off, or can start off, as some kind of cosmetic interest, where we want to look a certain way or fit a certain dress size or whatever it is. But what we find, those of us that get into it, is that you get so much more out of it as you go through it than you would have expected just from the outside looking in. Yeah. And because that's just not enough to keep you there, for X number of years, and all the years that you and I have been doing this. Right. Just, okay, you make that physical change, and, you get ready for, that wedding or class reunion, or make that sports team, or this, that, whatever. Now what? So, but there's so many more rewarding things you get from it as you continue to do it that you wouldn't expect, as far as just the health and the wellness and longevity, the confidence and the calmness, and the friendships and relationship that you make, and the energy and the way you feel about yourself, and learning how to invest in yourself through fitness to make your life better and your world better around you. That's a very powerful thing. And I think if more people knew that those things came with it, it would be easier for them to start it.
Mm.
And if they continue long enough to start experiencing those things, it will be easier for them to stay on track.
Oh my God, so many nuggets of gold in what you just said. Yeah, I think a lot of people do start trying to look good in a swimsuit. You know, that's sort of the impetus for a lot of our fitness journeys. And then it's like you said, at some point, and I don't know, I think it's probably different for everybody, but for me, at some point, I was like, okay, cool, I did the thing, I got on stage in the little bikini, and now what? Like now I know I can do that. First of all, it was a huge mental accomplishment. I then knew myself as someone who could follow through on kind of a hard thing, you know, like restricted diet, training all the time, even just the, you know, the self-consciousness of getting up on stage in front of
Yeah.
a panel of judges. Like, but then yeah, at some point it stopped being so interesting to change how I looked. And it was like, okay, now what can I do? What are the performance-based goals that interest me? How many pull-ups could I do? How much could I deadlift, right? And then being able to kind of redirect that same discipline and that same confidence into other accomplishments is huge.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
those are great points, and that's what happens with most people. Is if you think there's one path, and that may be the thing that started you, but then you realize there's so many directions I can go in that may be more suited for you. And we all need some kind of initial goal to get us, in motion. But then once we are in motion, then the world opens up, and the fitness world is a very big world, and it's a very important world. And we're discovering now it's even more important than we may have thought it was in terms of keeping ourselves healthy and well and even alive. So however you get into it, it's, it could be a different thing for different people, but that's the key is you learn a lot about yourself. It's like walking onto a college campus that first time, and you may have a major, you may have something that you think you're going to do, and all of a sudden you say, well, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, I could do that. And that's a very enlightening time. And for some people, it's overwhelming and they can get lost. But for others, it just helps us to realize, all the possibilities and the potential that's out there, and that there could be careers from this. And you probably would not have predicted when you were starting to do those things that you'd be right where you are right
now. No, not at all. I mean, I think when we were working together, I did not envision a career in wellness. That wasn't even on my radar, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I had sort of dabbled, and I thought like being a trainer was cool, but I definitely didn't expect, the winding road that took me to nutritional therapy. So
Sure.
yeah,
And,
for sure.
and everything teaches us, and that was part of your learning curve. And things that I thought were my destination I've come to realize that were just part of my learning curve, and sets me in the position to be where I am. And I don't know how much of you shared of your story, but you have an amazing story. And for people to know or predict then where you are now, it's incredible. And that's a testament to you and your hard work and your drive, and also rubber stamps the possibilities for other people that may not think that they can do certain things, and they realize, oh my gosh, I don't even have to do 1/10 of what she did to have even more advantages. So let me see that door is open, and I can do things that maybe I didn't think of before.
Yeah, well, and I think you and I share that kind of feeling of having a divinely directed path where I couldn't have predicted. There's no straight line from
Yeah, very true.
where I am now. It doesn't make sense. So yeah. So okay, so God, so many things I want to ask you, Kevin. I've been so
Far
excited
away.
about this. I was talking to my husband yesterday. We were walking the dogs, and I was like, I get to interview Kevin Myles tomorrow. And he goes, I get to take out the garbage tomorrow because it's Wednesday. He was like, I don't have anything that exciting. I was like, well, too bad for you. So you have done so many different jobs in the fitness and nutrition world. Like you said, managing a health food store, managing a gym, being a trainer, and you were doing online coaching a long time ago, actually, because I remember when I was going through nutritional therapy school and I was learning about all these different diets, I couldn't, talk about shiny object syndrome. I couldn't figure out what to feed myself. And so I don't know if you remember this, but I reached out to you and I was like, can you just tell me what to eat for a while? Because I cannot do this for myself while I'm in school. It's too much.
Yeah.
So that was even in 2014, 2015, something like that. So even before quarantine and everyone trying to go online, you've been working with people remotely. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what was that because of a demand from your clientele? Was that because you just like decided you wanted to reach out to more people? What made you decide to kind of do that?
It kind of was a little bit of a demand. I mean, as I started working on Body Sport, and my website Body Sport is basically covers all aspects of fitness and nutrition and health and wellness, and has lots of different things, but it's gone through a few different personalities. And at one time it covered the competition industry as far as show coverage and talking and writing about the athletes and how they trained and ate, and it evolved into a women's magazine. And then it was on the shelf for a while. Now it is what it is today. But back when I was doing that, I was still coaching people for shows. And so people started reaching out to me to help them prep for shows. And many of them were at a distance from me. And so that's where my online training and coaching really started, was doing contest prep. And then ultimately I started getting requests from other trainers to teach them how to do contest prep. And so I developed a course to do that. And I did that one-to-one via Skype. And I had clients, and I had one guy from Ireland, one guy from England, one girl from Australia. And so it was telling me that this can be done remotely. And at the same time, I was still training people in the gym. It was after I'd already finished managing Gold Sim for 8 years. And I started doing some online training and coaching when I was going to move to Vegas to work on the magazine with my then business partner, Terry Goodlat's awesome dude. And I learned so much from him. He was actually the founder of Body Sport, which he later handed on to me as he went to work on some other projects. And so I knew I was going to leave a lot of my clients behind, but there's still people that wanted to work with me. And so I started doing just their diets or just their training, where I just oversee what they were doing. So instead of having to be into the gym with them and standing there while they're doing each rep, some people are more advanced than that. So you can just give them their programs, kind of oversee what they're doing, manage their diets, manage their training. And so that was the first generation of me doing online training. And it worked out well. And ultimately I left that area. So I did all of my training was online, and as it is right now. That doesn't mean I won't ever get back to that one-on-one thing. I like that and miss that to a degree, but I couldn't do it enough to justify doing it in terms of the fees you have to pay the gym to be able to do that. Then I have to have a certain amount of clients for that to be, economically advantageous. And it wasn't, but I could still reach people and help people that needed my help, and then not be limited to geography. They don't have to be in their area. I don't have to be in their area. So now even I have most of the people I work with are fairly experienced, but not always. And I have some brand new ones. But a lot of them I have a guy he's from Italy, and I started working with him last year. And he lives in the UK, and it's just so much fun to work with him. And he has his own fitness studio where he trains his clients. And so you get to work with some amazing people of all levels. And I think that's one of the keys to my longevity, is seeing things through the eyes of a beginner, and that freshness and that passion and that excitement that feeds you. And then being able to collaborate with someone that's more experienced. And I never say that, it's about me telling you what to do and you doing it. It's about you and me working together so we can do what's best for you. And so I always learn in those situations as well. And that always feeds my energy and keeps me growing.
Yeah. And I want to talk about contest prep for a minute. So I know that, because that's how you and I met. So little backstory for those who don't know, I was a figure competitor in like 2009, eight.
Yeah.
And I had never been on a diet before. I was not a childhood athlete. I was a bookworm. I was not athletic. But when I got sober in 94, I started bodybuilding and just like didn't know what I was doing. There were not as many bodybuilding role models for women, in that there weren't magazines, I should say. There were role models. They were just all in the muscle and fitness type magazines, right? So I would pour through those every month and learn about all of these amazing women and how strong they were. And I would just go to the gym and do whatever I could figure out to do. So very undirected. And I was still in culinary school when I started. And so I was eating like basically butter. I was eating, like whatever I wanted, right? So I didn't really know how to do the nutrition piece of it. I didn't know how to, I'd never been on a diet before. I mean, I feel lucky now, like with everything I know about how a lot of girls grow up. I'd never been on a diet before. I'd never really tried to restrict anything. So my friend Dave Dixon, who is an OG aerobics competitor from back in the day, and now is like an aerobics instructor, Zumba teacher, amazing guy, introduced me to you. And we started working together. And I had come from like running marathons. So I had these giant legs and no upper body. And you were like, okay, you know, this is what you got to do. You cannot run so much if you're going to have this balanced physique, right? And I just remember being so, I mean, I sometimes, I'm such a rebellious person, and just immediately, and probably people watching this video can understand this, but just like immediately meeting you, I had so much respect for you. And I was just like, okay, this dude knows what he's talking about. He is going to guide me. He's done this hundreds of times before, you know, like we can do this. And so I just followed your instructions. And for someone like me, that is a really big deal, to follow instructions that like I just wasn't that kind of person. So again, that's kind of what I mean by like I learned so much about myself, and I learned that I could do hard things, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so contest prep is such a wild industry, and I will like forever be grateful that I knew Dave, that Dave knew to introduce me to you, because I, you know, I worked with other women trainers, even men, who were doing all kinds of crazy stuff to get ready for shows, who would gain a ton of weight after each show and do this like kind of socially acceptable, like binging, you know, disordered eating kind of situation. And, you know, your approach was so different than that. And so, you know, obviously like natural, you know, we didn't, you were like, this is how you do it. You drink water, you eat carbs, and then you don't eat carbs, and then you drink more water, and then you drink a little less water. It was like, oh, okay, I don't have to do these crazy things to my body, right? So I would love to hear from you, because I know, you know, maybe that's not all of what you're doing anymore, but I would love for you to talk about that a little bit for anyone who might be watching this and might be thinking like, oh, you know, I'm in quarantine, I got some muscle on me, now I want to do a show. What can you say to people about the world of competition prep? Like, for anyone who's thinking about getting into it, or maybe they went down that road of like doing all the chemical stuff and now they want to go more natural, what would you say about that?
Sure. And that was a great experience working with you, and it's been a great experience working with so many people. And that's the one thing about the contest prep industry. It's a little bit of the wild, wild west, and it could be so extreme. It stems from bodybuilding, which has gone off the rails in terms of drug use, steroid use, GH, all kinds of different things. And that's trickled into the other areas of competition, including even the women's areas, because it's easier sometimes for people to direct, you know, the people that they're coaching, or for competitors to get results that way. But it's not necessarily the best approach as far as long-term, you know, how you're going to look, the before picture, then the after picture, then the after picture, right, or someone's health. And so in anything that I do, I try to look at the big picture and do what's best for the person, not what's best for me or what's best for the sport or anything like that. So I'm not going to put someone's, you know, health at risk and put their body on a kamikaze mission just so they look good at a show where someone's going to pat me on the back as a coach, and then they have a lot of problems after that. So I had to incorporate my beliefs of dieting as far as it being a lifestyle approach, and it being something that should take the person into a better place that they could continue to improve from there, as opposed to the way the industry too often is. not an indictment on anyone else, but that's just my approach, and that's what I believe. And so I work with people that want to do that the same way. And now it's expanded so that when you're competing, there weren't that many options. You had, like, for women, there are fitness, bodybuilding, and figure. Now you have wellness, and you have bikini, and the look is almost a spot for anyone. But then even with that, in terms of certain organizations, it still evolves over a few years and gets more and more extreme. And so you have to be careful. And sometimes it's how it's judged. And so it can be a very good thing in terms of if you use it as a motivation to bring out the best in yourself. But it can be a very detrimental thing if you allow it to affect your self-esteem in terms of being judged in a standard of look that, you know, you may be comparing yourself to someone that's been doing something for 10, 15, 20 years. And I remember one of my clients was getting ready for her first show, and she brings in, you know, a picture of someone, say, how come I don't look like her yet? So this girl's been training for 15 years, you know, and Terry's former wife, who was a competitor in all the magazines, and she trained for 16 years before she started doing a show. There weren't any shows back then. And so there's a learning curve, and that's what's a big problem with the sport. Everyone wants to be a pro in 1 or 2 years, and whatever that means, because pros don't even get paid for the most part. Whereas if you're going to be a pro baseball player, you're going to play 4 years of Little League and 4 years of high school and 4 years of college and a few years in the minors, and maybe, you know, you get to be at that level. So you're looking at a 8-10 year journey. Whereas in fitness, people want everything yesterday, and they see a show and they say, oh, how long does it take to do that? And so, yeah, you diet for 3 months, 4 months, typically. Well, your body may be 3 months away. Your body may be 20 weeks away. Your body may be, you know, be 3 or 4 years away. It depends on if you need to build muscle for that. So being able to guide people and be honest with them and tell them, you know, what their options are and how long it's going to take and what's the best approach to do it, and help them to understand that, you know, there is going to be a learning curve with their body when they do this. Now, that's not always what they want to hear. So they may go find someone else that's going to take them down a more extreme path and push different things at them. And some of them are going to go do that. And you know, that's their choice and that's their option. And I also understand you have to still get them results to be on stage looking good, because they could say, oh yeah, I don't really care how we're going to do, and I just want to be up there. But when they get up there, and if they don't look good enough in their head and to everyone else, then they're going to not be happy with the fact that they're not getting called out, and not be happy with the fact that everyone's beating them and placing ahead of them. So you have to help them in terms of letting them be who they are, but teaching them what is going to be required of them in terms of how much training you're going to have to do, how much discipline you're going to have to put into your diet, and that you need to put effort into this to look a certain way, and it may take longer than you think. And so help them with that. That show that they want to do in 3 months that their friend's doing, maybe that's not the best approach to them. Maybe they need to do the show that's 7, 8, 9 months away or something like that. So it's about guiding people and working with them. And I've learned a lot, and I've developed some great relationships with that. And at times you get people that just, they want to do their thing, and God bless them. They're going to like you, and everything's your fault if I don't do this well, or even sometimes they are doing well. And their best people get recruited by other coaches because they want to be associated with them, and you get that. So it's a love-hate thing that I've had with this industry. So I don't really go pursue people that want to recruit them into doing this. But if people want to do it, I'm more than happy to work with them and establish that communication with them. And I teach that in my coaches courses, as far as, you know, you have to take into consideration that this isn't about you. This isn't about you building a reputation of a super coach or any of these different things. It's about you helping someone reach their goals, but also helping them understand what those goals are and being realistic about it. You know, people will come in, and the industry and certain organizations will allow you to think that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And they want you to believe that and think, okay, oh, I'll just do a show and I'll do well, and the magazines assign me, and I'll get the supplement contract, and this money will pour in, and I'll be famous, and this, that, whatever. And they're not going to tell you that that's not how it's going to work. They're actually going to sell you tickets to ride the rainbow. So the coach has to be the one to kind of like pump the brakes on some of those things and let people know what really is out there. Are there some great opportunities in the fitness industry? Of course there are, but they may not be as direct as some people think they are, or some people are leading you to believe that they are. So you just want to be balanced with people and honest with people and help them understand. And I teach that if you're going to be a coach, be the right kind of a coach. And a coach can be very important to people in all aspects of their fitness, whether it's their nutrition, whether it's their training, whether it's their motivation, or whatever it is, contest prep or whatever it is. But you have to be the right type of coach and be there for the right reasons. And that's going to allow you to do the right things.
Mm-hmm. And I remember even, I had my heart set on doing a show, the San Jose summertime show, and I wasn't ready. And you told me I wasn't ready. And I did not like hearing that. And, but when you sat me down and explained to me that, it's like it costs money to register in the show, to enter, it's like your time, your prep, all of that, to go through all of that and then know that you weren't actually, it wasn't going to be a good experience for me.
Yeah.
And you could see that, because you have had this experience so many times. And so, I think I went to the beach that weekend with a friend and did a photo shoot, and I was like, okay, fine, this is fine, and then I ended up doing a show a few months later. But that was it was like, it takes that level of, I think, just like being willing to kind of assume that people are mature enough to hear what they don't want to hear.
Yeah. And that's, for me, there's a lot of experience with that. Not so much even with people that I coach, but just, I know what it's like, what happens when you force someone's body to be ready for something, because that's what a lot of coaches do. Right. And even if they wind up doing great in the show, once that show's over, their body's like, that's it, I'm done. And their metabolism's so suppressed, and they're craving all these things. And many times they gain 20, 30, 40 pounds after a show with a body that's just not responding the way it should. And they're stuck there. They can be stuck there for months. I've seen girls that have been stuck there for years. And it is a very sad thing when you get someone that's calling you, that's in all the magazines, and everyone's worshiping their pictures and talk about how great they are and how they want to be like them. And that person's 40, 50 pounds up, wearing sweats in the summertime because they're too embarrassed for people to see them, training at a gym 50 miles from their house because they don't want anyone to see them. And how many stories there are like that because of just putting their bodies on those kamikaze missions. So I refuse to do that to someone. I would rather they take their time and do a show that's more in line with how the rate of change that their bodies make. And especially nowadays, because there are so many shows out there, you can pretty much find a show any weekend, that's reasonably close. So there wasn't like there was back, 20 years ago, where you only had a couple shows and you had to make your body ready in time for that. And yeah, you can time it. And if you have the experience, you can kind of know how fast, Michelle's body is going to prep for a show, so you can plan that way. But the first show, sometimes that's difficult. And depending on where the person came from athletically, that can be different. So I just saw the damage that could be done. And I made them, I would never do that to someone I was working with.
Well, thank you. Now I can see the wisdom in it. In the moment I was like, what? But it just perpetuates that, like, the dark side of the nutrition diet culture, right? That extreme yo-yo situation, and just trying to force our bodies to do something that they don't want to do. Right. And that, I feel like, the mindset or the mind frame that you have had in approaching nutrition has been so, for lack of a better word, you have this very conservative approach that, for me, I find myself quoting you all the time. And that was part of what the impetus for I should just get him on a call and interview him, because I was typing something. I was like, eat as much as you can while still losing body fat. And I was like, that's from Kevin Myles. That's from Kevin Myles, right there, and it stuck with me, and it's impacts my clientele now, because, I'm the opposite of extreme diet in my, my approach in my business. So, I think that's really, really important. So I want to get to this trend, this idea of trends in the industry, because I feel like, so you started out with Jack LaLanne, and I was going to give you a hard time about that, but Jack LaLanne was one of the, I don't know, he's just a pioneer, he was just talk about the real deal. And he and his wife, and all of the juicing and all of the workouts and just his attitude was
Yeah.
so infectious that people wanted to look like him, people wanted to be like him. And I feel like there's a lot of, what we know now that we could just directly attribute to people like Jack LaLanne, Joe Weider, all of those
Yeah,
guys.
definitely.
Um,
Way ahead of his time.
Totally, right? So, and then in the 80s, I think, and I talk about this a lot in my programs, just like the history of trends in food and the industry and the lobbies and all of the reasons why politically, low fat was the trend. But, you worked with, what were you doing in the 80s? Was that the health food store era? That was pre-Gold's,
Yeah,
right?
it was I actually had a degree. I earned a degree in criminal justice, but I knew I didn't want to use that. And I took like 6 months off to figure out what I wanted to do, and I went to a seminar with Franco Colombo, who was Arnold's old training partner. And Franco was a doctor of chiropractic, and I had some friends that are going to chiropractic school, and I was just so impressed with his level of knowledge and everything that he knew. And listening to him, I said, yeah, that'd be interesting to get. And I looked, and there was a great chiropractic school right in 20 minutes from my house, but I didn't have the prereqs to do that. So I actually went back to school to do all the prerequisites for chiropractic school, like the physics and the biochem and organic chem and this and that and on, and anatomy, and it was all just stuff that I loved to do. But by then I was just burnt out on school.
Mm-hmm.
So I started working at that same health food store that I'd actually seen Franco give that seminar at, and was just doing that in personal training. And then Gold's Gym recruited me one day to come work for them. But in the 80s, people were still learning. There was a lot of guys that were learning trial and error because there wasn't the science behind it. No one cared about investigating things as far as that goes. And so diets were, from a competition standpoint, the guys getting into shape, a lot of the diets were the guys would go on low carb diets. And for their training for mass, they'd have more high fat diets. So the protein was always real high. There's a lot of animal protein that was being used. The chemicals that they used then was coming out. And this is something I never went that direction, but I saw it. It was all around me. But back in, say, Arnold's day, guys would do that for getting ready for shows. And then it just started going crazy. And I remember my training partners making the comment, man, these cats are taking this stuff like it's candy. And it was true. They just got worse and worse and worse. And so we got guys that started doing stuff like all year long and just more and more and more. It was crazy. I remember I was training at Gold's Gym once, and one of the guys was getting ready for a local San Jose show, and he just starts coming up and volunteering to me all the things that he's taken. And I didn't know the names of most of the stuff. And it's like, whoa. I'm like, this guy's doing more stuff than Arnold used to win all of his Olympias.
Right.
And as the chemicals became more prevalent, the knowledge became less in terms of training got de-emphasized, diet got de-emphasized. So when you see some of these competitors, they're hanging around the gym on texting on the phone, trying to talk to girls and stuff, whatever. It's like, they don't kick it in until it's like 2 or 3 months for a show. And that's not how it used to be. We loved to train. And we were always trying to learn stuff. We were always trying to eat right. And people like Steve Reeves, who's an advocate of granola and goat's milk and yogurt and all these different things. And so that was there. The physical culture aspect was there. And that's what I gravitated towards. And that was fascinating me. And I started reading books on vitamins and minerals and nutritional supplements. And the debate in my nutrition class is, you can get everything from food. I'm like, I don't know about that. And I don't know if that was true then. And I certainly don't believe it's true now.
Right.
And in terms of, and that's just for the average sedentary person, but about someone that's actually trying to maximize or optimize their nutrition and give their body the optimal amount of nutrients as opposed to the minimal amount of nutrients, which is what the RDA is. And so there was a lot of common sense to it, but I knew I was asking my body to do things that most people weren't. And I knew people that had fitness goals were asking their bodies to do things that most people weren't asking their bodies to do. And so you want to empower your body with the best fuel possible to be able to do those things. You want to put performance racing fuel into your high performance race car, not the cheapest gas you can find. And you could see it make a difference. And it was just what the people that were getting results were doing. It was, the proof was in the pudding in terms of how they were eating and how they were training and the approach that they took, and that it wasn't overnight. And one great quote from one bodybuilder that's pretty popular that I like to attribute to success in general is those things that you do out of the spotlight those day-to-day little steps that you take that are really going to make the difference. It's not the real glamorous things that people think or know that might be there, but it's just the consistency and, you know, the eating the right things and the getting the workouts in, and there's no bells and whistles. There's no, you know, cheering crowds most of the time, but those things are really going to make a difference in terms of what you do eat and then what you don't give your body. That's also another key.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're seeing that, I think we're seeing that now even more, you know, it's not like food, the industry of food got healthier since then, right? I mean, we have, thank goodness we don't have Olestra anymore, but there's a new fake fat on the market now. I can't remember the name of it, but you know, where it's like not even labeled well, you know. Now we're having, the FDA is like removing some of the restrictions on labeling. And so, you know, if you have even like a food allergy, maybe you might not be able to know by reading a label what the actual ingredients are. And so the more processed foods that we get that are engineered to be addictive, they're engineered in a lab by scientists to taste delicious and make you crave more. It's like, this is where I part ways with the intuitive eating crowd, because it's a shortcut. It bypasses that neural pathway in your body that tells you what you should eat and what you should want. And so, you know, eating, and it's the same thing with the drugs, right? With the steroids, it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut. It bypasses all that work.
Food is scary right now. A lot of things that we classify as food probably shouldn't be classified as food. In terms of, you get a package of something, it's well, this is 70% food because there's 30% of it that's not food, you know. And it is being, like you said, engineered to taste good, to have us crave it, to have us, you know, have a long shelf life, to have a better crop yield. And the nutrient value of even on the fresh fruits and vegetables is gone down progressively over the decades. So it's hard to get all the nutrients we need, even if we're eating that, you know, from the outside of the grocery store, but the inside where everything's packaged and frozen and in boxes, that's tough. And that stems from the kind of society we have. We have a sick care society, not a healthcare society. So our medical communities pretty much wait till someone gets sick and then they treat the symptoms with drugs and medication, as opposed to working with the person to help them be as healthy as possible, working on their health and their wellness and their fitness so that they don't get those problems in the first place, many of which are avoidable and are lifestyle based. And that's what's hit everyone in the face with a shovel these past few months in terms of who's at higher risk and who needs to, like, I really need to take control of my health and fitness and my wellness, so because it affects my survival right now. And at the same time, all the gyms were closed, so people were in a panic. And the whole landscape of what fitness has been is changing and shifting out of necessity to try to make us help us be healthier. And so it seems like it's getting taken a hit because there's gyms that are, you know, filing for Chapter 11 and GNC filed for Chapter 11 and stuff like that. And so people think the fitness industry is dying. I see it's going to grow. It's just going to evolve because people are now realizing how much more important that it actually is. And they're going to have to take that impetus on themselves. I wrote this one article called The Two Doors of Fitness. And basically the premise was there's a house and the front door, you look and it's like a party going on. All the beautiful people hanging out, there's music coming out, they're waving to you to come in, and it looks like the greatest time in the world. And a lot of people enter through that door because it seems so glamorous, but some people don't. They're too busy, or it's not attractive to them, or they don't think it's for them. And at some point in life, they go through the back door. Now it's the same house and the same things inside, but there's no music, there's no glamour. And once you get inside, you realize those beautiful people weren't trying to get you in there because of the party, they're trying to tell you how important it could be. And so people don't come to fitness for the glamorous reason. They come sometimes after they have had a problem. Their cholesterol's too high, their blood pressure's too high. They're having, you know, all kinds of issues, and they need to turn to fitness to kind of reverse that or slow it down a little bit. It would have been so much better had they done that initially, but at least they can still do it now. So it's the same house inside. It's just how how you come to it. So now being those people standing at the door, waving people in, I'm realizing that you and we have to go out there and try to get them, to try to help them understand how important it is for them to be in that house. Not that it's glamorous, but that it's necessary for their health and their wellness and their well-being. And that's what we're trying to do. That's one thing, what my new site, the 50 Plus Fit Club, and a buddy of mine I met in the gym, Ron, he had the concept, and it mirrored a concept that I have. And the whole philosophy is, what are you going to be like when you're 50? We want to redefine what aging should be like via health and fitness. It doesn't have to be what we typically think it should be. And Ron's 52, I'm 61 now. And we want people to understand, whether you're 35, 45, 55, that doesn't have to be what we always thought that would be. So we want to give them examples of people that are showcasing what aging can be like, and then give them the information to help them, age better and still be functional, still, show how capable they are, how accomplished they can be, what things they can still do. And whether they're just starting in their 50s or whether they're 25, 30, they're seeing their parents and say, man, I see the do different paths. I want to start this now. So it's just redefining what aging means, or what we think it is, by showing what a fitness lifestyle can do for you.
I love that. And I think there's so much science to back all of it up now.
Yeah.
The weight-bearing exercise prevents and reverses osteoporosis, even in postmenopausal women. Even what we're dealing with right now, exercise is so important for the immune system.
Yeah.
So important for the immune system, not even touching nutrition, right? But just even moving your body, sweating every day, right? So important for immunity. And I think, it's like you said, I love that 2 doors analogy. Like, however you get here, just come in.
Yeah, definitely.
Whatever the motivation is. Maybe you don't want to ever stand on stage in a bikini and clear heels. Okay, great. Maybe you just want to not die of a heart attack like your, relatives did. Like, that's valid. That is totally valid. Like, get on in the house.
Exactly.
So as far as like, when people come to you and they are, because I get these questions all the time, and I can only imagine that you've just been bombarded by these your whole career. People are like, what do you think about keto? What do you think about high carb? What do you think about low carb? What do you think about, what is that 7-minute workout thing that people really want to have be the real answer for life? What do you say when people come to you and they're like, what about this? And it's some super trendy, flashy, new, shiny thing.
Yeah, and there's always going to be that. And what I tell people is certain things will work for anyone and everyone, and that same thing won't work for others. And different people have different reasons why they're not being successful. So if a particular diet happens to solve your biggest problem or issue, then you're going to get better results from it. You're going to swear by it. So for example, if you're real carb sensitive, you're not doing very well on carbohydrates, and you go on a keto diet and remove those carbohydrates, you're going to find a lot of success with that. Other people that, maybe that's not the best thing for them. If someone has a problem overeating, which is a big problem in terms of just getting results anyway, if they go on some kind of structure, that's going to help them. If that's intermittent fasting, so that they're controlling that time frame when they eat, they're not eating as much, so they reduce their calories just because of that. It's not necessarily that the diet itself was magical. The biggest thing about diets is the one you can comply with the best. That's one that's going to give you the best results. And so you have different things that you can try on that may fit for you, that intuitively work better for you. And that's going to be best for you. It may not be best for everyone else. It may not, be as fast for you as some other ones, but there's different things that you can try. There's pros and cons to all of them. There's not one that's magic. I tend to like the Mediterranean style diet a little bit better for me and for my health standpoint. And that's the other thing. People want to evaluate a diet based on weight and appearance and how fast those things happen. But a diet should also nourish you. It should also add, add to your health, add to your longevity, add to your ability to function properly. Not just, he looks good, but he doesn't have any energy. he's half asleep all the time. He can't lift, what he was lifting or run what he was running or she was running. And so it can't just be evaluated in terms of weight loss or, speed of effectiveness. It has to be evaluated also in terms of health and longevity and wellness and fitness and how it's going to improve your life or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when you start looking at it, you can have periods of time where you're trying to maximize something for a certain, reason, but the overall lifestyle approach that you need to take, it just has to incorporate those things as well. It has to incorporate what's best for you and your health long term.
Yeah, it has to be sustainable.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And I think that one of the best and most fun things for me, because I do tend to get a little shiny object syndrome myself, that I learned from the bodybuilding world was this idea of periodization, right? Where you have a certain way that you're training, and this is actually more common in other sports, but bodybuilders have applied it for a long time. And it's the thing that is missing in a lot of the people who don't really take it seriously as a sport, is that they try to do the same thing all the time in the gym, and then they wonder why they're not making progress or making gains. And not only can you apply that to working out, but to nutrition as well, right? Like in the summer, you're going to eat more fruit. In the winter, I mean, depending on if you live in northern or southern hemisphere, right, you're going to eat more starchy vegetables, more root vegetables, right? But like having that, and then if you're eating for a particular life challenge, or if you're eating for a particular stage of life, if you're trying to balance your hormones, that's a whole different kind of like periodization. So we can have these kind of macro and micro cycles within how we eat, where we might be restricting a little bit for a moment in time, but it's overall the approach is sustainable. And I think that the principles behind, what you taught me and what I try to teach people, like eat as much as you can while still either maintaining or losing your body fat, whatever it is you're trying to do, right? You don't want to restrict as much as possible. Then you don't have anywhere to go. Right. And then again, you're lazy, you're tired, you're not functional. Like, yeah, we all want to look good in a bathing suit. I mean, most people do, but you also need to be able to show up to work and show up for your family and your kids and all that good stuff.
Yeah. And that's a big mistake people make when they're dieting. They cut too much too soon. And I tell people to diet on as many calories as possible from as wide a variety of nutrients as possible, as far as good nutrients, quality nutrients. Because like you said, you're going to give yourself somewhere to go. The big mistake people make is like, oh, I'm going to start this diet because they want to be there already. And they cut their calories too aggressively, and even start exercising too aggressively, where your body's only going to lose body fat so fast. Or else we could just not eat for 3 days in a row and do 10 hours of cardio a day and be in shape in a week and a half. It doesn't work that way. So you're just going to lose muscle and water, and your metabolism is going to adapt down. So what's going to happen is you're going to lose things other than the body fat you're trying to lose. And your metabolism is going to start to slow down and become more adaptive to the fact that your calories are so low. Because if you're supposed to be getting 2,500 calories a day and you only give yourself 1,000, well, you're not going to die, but your body that could burn 2,500 calories, it's now going to learn to burn only 1,000 calories a day. Yeah. And so when you do go back to eating normally, or try to do so, or even try to diet more, to lose more once you hit that plateau, where are you going to go? So that's what happens with people. They force themselves to lose weight on this, what I call a kamikaze mission. Maybe they do so for 3 months, but then they go back to what should be a more normal eating, what should be maintenance, and they go back up and they gain a lot of weight again. And that's a tough place for people to be. And I remember giving one seminar, and one girl that was there, and she lost 60 pounds. And then she gained back 60 pounds. And she lost 60 pounds again, and she gained back 65. And so now there she was trying to climb that mountain again. Because right, climbing that mountain and sliding all the way back down, and climbing again and sliding all the way back down. And now here you are at the bottom again. So you can take an approach that's going to maybe be slower to get to the top, but you're not going to slide down the same way. And it's going to be healthier for you. It's going to be, because that's a tough place to be, to still try to pick yourself up and do that all over again. You're going to believe that you failed for some reason, which you didn't fail. You just didn't understand how the body works. And people are misleading people in terms of that respect.
Yes. And how many times, I don't know about you, but I've heard so many people have come in and in our intake session, they're like, well, what really worked for me, what really works. And then they'll tell me the diet that they did that works, where they lost the 60 pounds, but then they gained 80. And you're like, okay, but that didn't work for you. Let's just talk about this for a second, because that didn't work for you.
No.
That is not sustainable. And it's not only hard like emotionally and psychologically to yo-yo like that, it's really hard on your body. And it
Totally.
makes it harder each time, not only to like lose body fat again, but it actually makes it harder to build muscle. And one of the big things that I took from our work together and just from like bodybuilding culture in general is that the more lean muscle that you have, the more of like a fat burning machine your body is. So ultimately what we want is to have our nutrition support our ability to build and maintain lean muscle, because the rest will work itself out.
Exactly. And then
Right?
the flip side of that, the other side of the coin, is people do the same thing with their fitness program. You know, they haven't been going at all. And now it's like, okay, I'm going to start this program. And instead of starting 2 or 3 days a week, so I'm gonna go 5 days a week or 6 days a week. And I'm gonna start, you know, instead of doing 15, 20 minutes of cardio, I'm gonna start with a 45 minutes it's like, how long can you hold your breath? You can't. It's like someone that's running a marathon, but they want to take off at a sprinter's pace, and you're not going to be able to maintain this. And so you want to do as much exercise as you need to stimulate your body to make the necessary changes that you're trying to make along that direction. And at the same time, you want to diet to the degree that you're getting progress, but not go over that you're robbing your body of nutrients and costing yourself in the long run. And it's counterintuitive, and it's hard for people because they want those results fast. And when you're first starting off, especially if you have a ways to go, you can't really see that you're losing muscle. All you know, the scale change. I dropped 7 pounds this week. I'm so happy, not understand that. Well, you didn't lose 7 pounds of body fat. You lost maybe 3 pounds of body fat, if that. And the rest of it is water and glycogen and you know, muscle. And that's a tough thing. And so you see shows like The Biggest Loser, and they're trying to like push these people to lose so much weight, and the speed of which they're doing it. And it's like, is not going to be sustainable for most of them. Even if you have a few good weeks, your body's like, that's it, because that's not what the body's trying to do. And survival of the fittest doesn't mean you can run the fastest and jump the highest. It means you can survive, you know, on nutrients. And we come from bodies that come from ancestors that had to survive on limited nutrients, limited food, limited calories. So our body is very good at storing and maintaining food. That's what it wants to do. It looks at that like putting food in the fridge. It wants to conserve energy, like turning the lights off in the house. And so it wants to store everything you give it and conserve energy whenever it can. And if you do things that, you know, make it look like or make it feel like it's being threatened, it will push back even harder to make those things happen for you. And that's where where a lot of people wind up. And there's some people that have put an incredible amount of dedication and work in terms of their diet and their training, but their bodies don't look like it because their bodies fight against them and are resisting their efforts because of that's just how the body is designed. So you have to understand that and work with your body as opposed to trying to force your body.
Totally. And, you know, what was I going to say about that? Just that idea that it's like delayed gratification. That's really it. It's just delayed gratification, and we're bad at that.
Yeah, many of us are.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to figure out. And that's why there's coaching. And that's why people need someone to, you know, help them as far as letting them understand the process of how this really works. Okay, so you lost 2 pounds and you lost 2 pounds and you gained 2 pounds. Well, that's normal. So don't go jump off a cliff. Or even if you didn't have a result that you wanted, that's part of it. It's a zigzag to the top. There's no linear progress. You have to hold people's hands. One of the great quotes that I had from a gentleman I interviewed who's one of the highest level contest prep coaches is, you can't be emotional and rational at the same time. And dieting for show, dieting for anything, it can be an emotional experience for people. And so they are not rational with it. So if they don't get the results, I'll train twice as hard, or I'll eat half as much. trying to make the results happen faster, or, oh, I had a bad week, I'll forget it. It's never gonna work now. I might as well eat this whole chocolate cake. I'm not losing anyway. And so it can swing back and forth. And so just understanding the process. And that's why it's good to have someone to guide you, or at least guide yourself in terms of giving yourself a little bit of a break and knowing what the process is like and knowing how long it can take, and treating yourself kindly as opposed to always beating yourself up emotionally. That's going to help you with your ultimate success.
Yeah. And I think the mindset piece is so important there. I mean, I remember being backstage at, the 2 shows that I did, and there were girls that were just crying because they hadn't placed where they wanted to place. And I was a little older, I was like in my late 20s, and I just felt like, wow, that's an extreme reaction. Like, I feel like for me, the journey was so much more important than the destination. And maybe if I'd stuck with it and actually like competed more, I would have gotten more competitive in my personality about it. But for me, it was just like a bucket list thing. I wanted to kind of check it off, but I also know that I'm not my body. I also know that I am worth more than how I look. And I think that piece of it is so important for people to keep in mind as they're, we need our bodies to get around in the world. They're like our little Scotty dog or top hat in the Monopoly game, right? And we need them to be able to function so that we can fulfill our mission, whatever that is. And if your mission is to look good in a bikini, that's going to go bankrupt real quick. You got to have something bigger as far as a context for why you want to be healthy, why you want to, be fit and be strong. And,
No, that's very true. And I try to ask people, what does fitness mean to you? And this is what I taught. And wrote about this in my book, and I wrote about this, and I did an online digital version of it. And there's some videos in there, and ask yourself this question. And I tell people, you're already special. Losing the weight is not going to make you be special. That's already there. It may help you feel that way or bring it out, but you don't want to attach your self-respect, your opinion of yourself to your appearance, because there's more to it. Those things are already there. Mm-hmm. Working on them, working on some goals will help you bring those things out, but it's not going to solve every problem that you have just because you snap your fingers or you look a certain way, or just so you snap your fingers, you have $10 million in the bank. There's other things that you need to really be balanced out. And I've worked with people there's one girl that I coached, and I was just her posing coach, and she's 6 feet tall, and she competed at 150 pounds, just very statuesque, like incredible looking girl. But she had come from weighing 250. So she lost 100 pounds, and that's how she'd been most of her life. And so she walks in a Gold's Gym and with her dad and to meet up and with me, and we went to pose. And it's like, I said, this must be weird for you. And she's like, you have no idea what it feels like right now when I've had people ignore me my whole life and treat me a certain way my whole life. And now everyone's acting completely different. And she was very uncomfortable with what you think would be this dream body that she now had. And she wound up settling in a place somewhere in between those two. So everything's not what people would think it would be. And so the time that it takes you to get there is an important time for self-discovery and who you really are, and improving yourself and becoming the person you want and need to be, independent of how you look. That's just one aspect of who you are. And it doesn't make you better or worse having a better or worse physique, in terms of how you treat people and how you see the world and those types of things. So again, I'm not knocking it. I think fitness is great for a lot of reasons, but self-esteem often comes from other people first. And that's the one hard part, because if you don't look the way you think you should look, and you don't have that confidence, and you're mirroring what you think others think about you. But as you get a better opinion of yourself, and as you get better feedback and stuff like this, then you start to realize, I never was this. I never was that. I always was capable of doing this. I always was capable of doing that. And you can find yourself on your journey to fitness. And that's one of those things that you get from it that I don't think people expect. You find out so much about yourself in terms of who you are, what you like, and where you want to be, and your power and your capability, and how to pick yourself up. And so many changes that you're going to go through that are positive, other than what the scale tells you.
Totally. That, I mean, that was definitely my experience. And yeah, I think that's what I hope for other people, you know, when they're going through it. It's like, let's just learn. Let's like learn what there is to learn along the way, and
Yeah,
not so much get caught up on the destination, right?
right. Very true.
Mm. Well, man, I feel like we could just keep talking for days and days, but I want to respect your time. I thank you so much for being here, and for just this conversation has been so great. And I know there's so many people, you know, this is like obvious to us, but I'm sure there's so many people that are going to watch this and go, oh yeah, okay, that's why, that's why this is happening to my metabolism. And
Yeah.
hopefully like a little injection of common sense and a little self-love pep talk will help to make their journey a little bit easier. Tell me so what you have coming up is the 50 Plus Fit Club.
50 Plus Fit Club will be launching in July. I'm just doing some few things with the site. Been working on it for a while.
Nice.
Bodysport.com still there, and that'll continue to do that. Still coaching people, and it's a friend of mine, Gabe Scarpelli, owns the Evolution Sports Expo, and we're actually going to promote our first competition, fitness physique competition, bodybuilding, fitness, figure, all that. But with COVID, he had to cancel the expo. He did one before all those shutdowns happened, and the other one he canceled. So we had to put that show on the shelf for a while. So it's interesting to see how things open up, because he also just launched a new gym. And so the fitness industry, again, fitness is so important for people, but gyms are just in various stages of reopening, and they're going to look different than they were. But don't give up on your fitness. I think people are going to find that it's never going to be the same. Group exercise was a staple to the fitness industry and launched and made successful a lot of these clubs, but the model doesn't work for maximizing a lot of people in a small space. And so a lot of that's gone online, and people are starting to do online courses and classes, and digital is going to be king. But what they're also going to find is geography is going to be an issue, because now that people are doing things online, they don't necessarily need to be 15 minutes from the location.
Right.
So having live streams may not be the best thing. It may be better to do digital courses for some people, because instructors are going to find, you know, how can I maximize this? How can I still help people? How can I reach people? Stuff like that. So digital platforms is maybe a way to go for some people. Live may be the way to go for some people. And some people are still going to want to go to the gym, and it's still an inspiring place. So, but maybe that means instead of going to the gym 4 days a week, you go twice and you do some stuff at home. But don't give up on your fitness. It's not less important now. It's more important now. So I think it's going to grow. It's just going to be redefined, and people they're going to need, there's things that you can't do that are physical. You can only work out so many times, but that's only a part of it. People need to come and talk to you and be motivated and get that information, or come, you know, read an article, or so there's different things that you can use to encourage yourself to be successful fitness wise, that aren't necessarily going to that gym or that health club or that yoga studio in addition to that. And that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for people to help others with their fitness pursuits and keep this industry growing and keep people improving.
I love that. That's such a great outlook. I think I hadn't really thought about the opportunities, that more opportunities are going to open up, especially obviously in the digital space, because of this pandemic, and God knows how long we're going to be dealing with this. But in the meantime, yeah, definitely finding those ways to do what you need to do. It's going to be important. Anything else so people can find you at bodysport.com. I'll link to everything in the show notes too, but
that's probably the easiest place to find me. And then if you go to the nav bar at the top, you'll see Body Sport University, and that'll be a link to all my digital courses. Some of them are free, and I'm still working on more. And there's a profile section that talks about really inspiring people and motivating people. And you owe me an interview for that. I've been meaning to interview you forever, so we'll do that. And then as the 50 Plus Fit Clubs launches, we will have a YouTube channel for that, and I'll do more different things. But just trying to do more. Bodysport.com is the easiest place to find me. That'll kind of link to everything else and lead to some different things with different things that I'm doing. And just keep believing in yourself, and keep understanding how important you are and how important it is to invest in yourself through fitness, and get help when you need it. And I completely endorse Michelle and everything that she's doing. She's walk the walk, talk the talk, and is just a magnificent person. And I thank you for having me here. And we're going to do I got some ideas for some stuff we can collaborate on. I think that would be fun. So we'll talk about that too. So
awesome. I cannot wait. All right. Well, thanks again. And again, I'll link to everything in the show notes, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Thanks.